Hey, this is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Thought I would talk about some of the other role-playing games that I play or that I'm interested in playing in the future. I play a lot of Pathfinder. I've done some videos on that recently. As a matter of fact, I just had my first session one of our new campaign yesterday, and I may talk about that at some point during the week. But today I'm really excited to talk about some of the other games that I'm playing. Specifically, excited to talk about this one, Root. So I am a sucker for new RPG systems that have really cool flavor. So for that reason, I have a copy of the second edition of the One Ring that I've read from cover to cover already and think that that is a really fun system with some great flavor. I've already pre-ordered the Renegade Games G.I. Joe RPG because I would like to use that as a gateway game to get my younger son into the hobby. But when I'm looking at these new systems, new RPGs, one of the things that I always look for is if they use some sort of a system that I am familiar with, so I'm not starting from scratch. And so if my players like the system, I can utilize it to introduce them to other games in different genres that they might not otherwise be interested in experimenting with. For example, I have Dungeon Crawl Classics, and I've used that as a way to introduce folks to Mutant Crawl Classics, which most of my fantasy gaming friends are not that interested in the sci-fi post-apocalypse world, but they liked it because it reminded them of Dungeon Crawl Classics. Well, one of the systems that's used repeatedly and very well most times is the Powered by the Apocalypse system. So most folks got their introduction to that system through Dungeon World, which was a massively available game that was set in the very comfortable confines of a fantasy world. And it is a storytelling system that is very rules light and allows players to make decisions, fail forward, and create their own story largely. The game master in that system and in other Powered by the Apocalypse system is mainly there to keep the story moving forward. It's not to tell the players what they can and can't do, but to tell them what happens when they do those things that they ask to do. And it's very interpretive, but it is incredibly powerful and flexible, and it's very easy to pick up on. Because of that, I have picked up other games that utilize that system or the shell of that system. For example, played some Monster of the Week, which is a kind of a Buffy version of the Powered by the Apocalypse system. I've played the Quest RPG, which I know some people are thinking, well, if you're familiar with Quest RPG, which if you're not, go look it up. It's a great game system. It was referred to me by an old friend. But it uses a almost Powered by the Apocalypse system, but it uses a D20 instead of 2D6. Otherwise, the concept is very similar. They obviously cribbed from the Powered by the Apocalypse game method there. But so whenever I saw that a board game that I was very interested in but had not played yet had its own new RPG coming out, I thought, wow, that looks pretty cool. I'd always wanted to play the board game, but I have too many games on my shelf that I'm not playing right now, hence my Shelf of Shame video series. If you have not watched that, go ahead and take a look. But as I was able to get a little bit of an extra boost at work, I usually reward myself whenever I have good days at work. And so one of my rewards that I gave myself was to get the Root RPG. I actually pre-ordered the special deluxe edition of the RPG and was so eager to get it in my hands that I went ahead and picked up this from Noble Knight Games just so I could have it a little bit quicker. This is the regular edition of the book. It's still a beautiful book, great quality. But so what I'm going to talk about today are the 5 things things about this RPG that put it over the top, and for me, make it the best of the Powered by the Apocalypse game system RPGs that I have had the pleasure of looking through.
I mean, he was the best.
I can't.
Number one, it has the Root IP. The Root IP means great artwork. It means a rich and thoroughly thought out world with far more dark corners than what you would expect from such a childlike imagery that accompanies it. And it gives the background that has come along with many, many, many expansions and a deep, deep board game background. Along with the Root IP also means that it will likely have at least a passing familiarity with many of the folks that you're going to want to play with it. It makes it a great way to introduce new players to the Powered by the Apocalypse system, and the Root IP is pretty inviting. It can be played very dark. It can also be played very kid-friendly. And if you're going to tell me that you've never wanted to play as a raccoon Ronin wielding a two-handed sword, I'm going to call your bluff, because everybody has wanted to play as a raccoon Ronin wielding a two-handed sword. That, and it really takes advantage of the Powered by the Apocalypse system. Nothing is really too far out there, but it just really utilizes the bits of that to their fullest. The moves make sense. They're all flavorful, and they're all very understandable. The playbooks are great, and then there is also a separate book, Wanderers of something. I haven't got it in yet, but it is going to expand the game even more, adding new factions, new playbooks, and otherwise deepening the game already that is only not even really fully released yet. Number two, you're not the good guys, you're not the bad guys, you're something else. And I don't mean you're the Suicide Squad. I mean, you are the Vagabonds. So, there's the Airy, which are the birds that used to rule. There's the Marquise, the cats that had taken over. And there's the Woodland Alliance. And they're all vying for control over the resources and geography of the woodlands. And rather than be one of the good guys, the bad guys, or the other guys, you guys are the Vagabonds, kind of taking advantage of that, kind of war profiteers, so to speak. Sure, you'll do some good deeds, and you will help factions that align with your values and morals. But at the end of the day, the price has got to be right. And that is just a different way of approaching a system than any other Powered by the Apocalypse system, and truly most RPGs. I think that it adds some depth, and it really, when I say you're not the good guys or the bad guys, really I'm not sure there are good guys or bad guys in this. I mean, you might think the Woodland Alliance is kind of the good guys because they're just common folks rebelling against the power elite, but even there's some corruption. So really, your goal is probably going to be similar to the man with no name in Fistful of Dollars or Yojimbo in the movie Yojimbo. You're trying to pit the factions against each other so none of them gains too much power, and you can continue your meager existence as a powerful band of vagabonds. So that was the number 2 reason. And number 3 is just the production quality of the book. So Root, and I've got a couple of other Powered by the Apocalypse Systems games here to compare it to, Root is definitely the outlier. Now you might say, well, City of Mist has some really nice production values as well. That is true. City of Mist certainly does. But it's definitely a style that is more aimed at a niche audience where anthropomorphic animals and the board game background, I think, makes Root a much more approachable way to approach the Powered by the Apocalypse system. And you combine that with these great production values, and you just have a wonderful product here. So most PBTA games are going to be the smaller, I believe they call it an A5 format. If I'm wrong about that, let me know in the comments. But, you know, got some decent black and white art. And by the way, these are games that I really like. I've ran some Monster of the Week. I've played in some Dungeon World. And these are good games. I definitely like them. But, you know, while that's a cool book, and Dungeon World is really the book that kind of brought Powered by the Apocalypse to the masses because it was a new look at a format similar to D&D and with different rules. But this is just a whole nother level. So when you look at Root, you've got the hardback, you've got the glossy pages, beautiful artwork, the layout is wonderful, comes with a ribbon in the book, just everything that you would want right here in the book, and a very sturdy book. Matter of fact, this book is so nice that even though I ordered the special Super Duper Deluxe slipcase, I just couldn't wait to get my hands on it. So I ordered the regular book as well. So this will be my table copy, and then my special edition will be my shelf copy. But great book, wonderful way to show off Powered by the Apocalypse to a new group of players due to this excellent, excellent quality of craftsmanship on the book. Now, at first glance, you may look through the rule book and say, man, there's not much equipment in here to load out my creatures after I get them built. But actually, one of the great things about this system is that there is a really flexible item creation system that is super easy to use. So you decide how many boxes of where, basically how sturdy the item is, what the range of its effects are, what special abilities it's going to have. We call those tags in the Powered by the Apocalypse system. And then weapon move tags, which are things that you can do with it in combat, and then minus the flaws tags. And that is going to be the overall cost in value, which is a term Root uses for its basically meta currency. And so that is all it takes. There's a list of these tags and flaws. That's all it takes to create any item you want. And if you go back to the section that has all of the tags in it, you will see that you really could create pretty much anything that you wanted to within this system, and it wouldn't be that hard, and you would know exactly how much it should cost and how powerful an item it would be. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Powered by the Apocalypse, you might think, well, there's surely a way that you can break that and you can make some just real janky items. Well, that's probably somewhat true, but that's not what Powered by the Apocalypse is all about. If somebody is looking to power game, they're probably not going to enjoy the Powered by the Apocalypse system. It is a storytelling system. No, the flexibility is more just to represent in the game the types of effects and items that you want to have in that world. So it's not something that you should be actively trying to take advantage of. It is just a nice, flexible tool that you can use in your game to create whatever you need to have in it. And the last thing on my list is the political intrigue. Now, this kind of plays into that Root IP that I had as number one. But this goes a step further because so much of this game depends on the interplay between the Marquisate and the Eyrie and the Woodland Alliance that it just makes the game very different. Because you don't really have a home-based faction. You really are kind of a loner group that's taking advantage of and benefiting from all of these factions, and then maybe giving back to some of the poor denizens of the forest, the woodlands in the process. So the political intrigue part of it is really, really something to behold, and it's one of those ways that this system adds to the existing Powered by the Apocalypse system. Now, Dungeon World had a really cool system for building nations and towns and things of that nature, and kind of playing out what happens in those areas. And I've actually stolen that and used that for some of my homebrew campaigns in other systems. But this one is a little bit different because it focuses more on the relationships and less on the physical structures of a town. It focuses more on the grander political schemings of the groups. And it really gives a different flavor to the root RPG than you would find in the other PBTA games. And there's also a very nice, flexible generator for quests and for woodland clearings. Clearings are like towns in this system. And basically you can just roll some dice and create your own woodland, complete with what alliances are powerful in which areas and where which clearings have paths established to them. And you just generate your own little woodland. And your story is going to be different at every table that you play at if you generate these. So that is not the least, but my last item for why the root RPG makes the most of the PBTA system, and for that reason it is my favorite Powered by the Apocalypse RPG. Until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.